You don't fail because you were incapable. You failed because you abandoned consistency the moment it stops feeling easy, when motivation fades, when pressure shows up, when life throws chaos your way. This isn't motivation. This is about rewiring your mind until discipline becomes who you are. So that showing up is no longer a choice, it's your identity. No more negotiating, no more starting over. This is how you become someone who does break. The only question left is, are you ready to become unstoppable? In a few moments, I'll teach you how to master unbreakable consistency, so discipline becomes automatic, effortless, and permanent. Consistency is the ultimate superpower. The harsh truth is this: the world does reward effort. It rewards repeated effort. Talent is useless without it. Intelligence means nothing without it. Even luck bows down to it. Consistency is the real superpower. The people you admire, the ones who seem unstoppable, aren't necessarily the smartest or the most gifted. They were the ones who kept showing up day after day. Whether it was exciting, whether it was boring, whether anyone noticed or not, they kept going. Most people don't fail because they were incapable. They fail because they cannot stay consistent long enough for the results to show up. They start strong, motivated, fired up, but the second boredom creeps in, or progress feels slow, or life throws a distraction their way, they fold. They convince themselves that maybe it's not meant to be, that maybe they were not cut out for it. But the truth is simpler, colder, and sharper than they were willing to admit. They quit too soon. Consistency beats talent because talent fades when it's not sharpened. Consistency beats intelligence because intelligence without application is just wasted potential. And consistency beats luck because luck can open a door, but only consistency will keep it open. Look at the people who succeed at the highest levels. It's not the ones who work the hardest for a week. It's the ones who worked steadily for years, stacking small wins, compounding effort, and refusing to break when progress felt invisible. The problem is most people are addicted to instant gratification. They want the reward before they've earned the right to it. They think that putting in effort for a few days, a few weeks should be enough to change their life. But the game does work like that. The universe does respond to what you do occasionally. It responds to what you do repeatedly. What you do on the days when it is hard, on the days when no one is watching, on the days when you don't feel like it. Imagine someone planting seeds in a field, watering them for 2 days, then walking away disappointed because there's no harvest yet. Sounds ridiculous, doesn't it? But that's how most people approach their goals. They underestimate how long mastery takes. They overestimate how much they can do in a day and underestimate how powerful they become when they do it daily. Consistency is the great equalizer. It makes the average person unstoppable. It allows the underdog to beat the prodigy. It turns nobodies into legends, not because they were better, not because they were luckier, but because they refuse to stop. Understand this: your biggest goals will not be conquered by intensity. They will be conquered by relentlessness. It's not about doing it perfectly. It's about doing it long enough. The ones who win in life are simply the ones who never stop moving forward. In a world full of quitters, showing up every single day is the ultimate flex. Consistency is the ultimate power move, and once you master it, nothing can stop you. Stop waiting for motivation. If you are waiting for motivation, you've already lost. Motivation is a liar. It shows up when it wants, disappears when you need it most, and tricks you into thinking that progress is something that only happens when you feel like it. But here, as the brutal truth, winners don't rely on motivation. They don't wait for some magical burst of inspiration to show up and push them into action. They move whether they are motivated or not. They execute whether they feel like it or not, because they understand a reality that most people refuse to accept. If your progress depends on your mood, you will never achieve anything that truly matters. Motivation is emotional. It's fleeting. It comes in waves. Some days high, some days non-existent. And the problem with chasing motivation is that when it's gone, so is your action, so is your discipline, so is your commitment. That's why most people start a goal with fire in their chest and end it buried under excuses. They do not lack potential. They lack the ability to act in the absence of motivation. The people who separate themselves, the ones who build bodies, businesses, careers, legacies, they all have one thing in common. They stopped negotiating with themselves. They stopped asking, do I feel like it today? Because the answer doesn't matter. The work gets done either way. They know that greatness isn't fueled by motivation. It is built on discipline. It is built on habit. It is built on the decision that their goals are non-negotiable no matter what emotion shows up that day. Think about it. No champion in any field ever relied on feeling good every morning to show up. Do you think the marathon runner felt like getting up at 4 a.m. every day? Do you think the entrepreneur building something from nothing always felt inspired? Do you think the fighter preparing for battle needed to check his mood before training? Absolutely not. They showed up because they made a decision, and that decision was stronger than their feelings. Waiting for motivation is how average people operate. It's how dreamers stay dreamers. It is how excuses get built. I am tired. I don't feel like it. I'll start tomorrow. These are the words of those who stay stuck, spinning in circles, convincing themselves that one day the stars will align and they'll suddenly become consistent. But that day never comes, because consistency does come from waiting. It comes from choosing. You need to understand this if you want to win. Action creates motivation, not the other way around. You don't wait until you feel ready. You start moving, and once you do, momentum builds. And when momentum builds, discipline takes over. And when discipline takes over, motivation becomes irrelevant. This is the secret. This is the truth. No one tells you. The strongest, most successful, most disciplined people, you know they don't feel like it most of the time, but they don't care. They move anyway, and that is why they win. Discipline over feelings. There's a rule that separates the unstoppable from the average. It's simple. It is brutal. It is non-negotiable. Feelings don't matter. Discipline does. The people who rise, who conquer, who dominate, whether in business, fitness, relationships, or life, are not the ones who feel good all the time. They are not the ones who wake up every day excited, motivated, and ready. No, they are the ones who understand that emotions are irrelevant to execution. They don't check in with their feelings before they act. They operate from a place of commitment, not emotion. Most people are slaves to how they feel. If they were tired, they skip. If they were bored, they quit. If they were frustrated, they delay. Their entire life is dictated by the fragile and fleeting whims of emotion. And that is exactly why they stay stuck, cycling through patterns of inconsistency, starting over, quitting halfway, always waiting for the perfect mood that never stays long enough to change anything. But the truth is simple. If you want to win at anything, truly win, you have to stop letting your feelings run the show. Discipline is what bridges the gap between goals and results. What carries you when motivation is nowhere to be found. It is the voice that says, I don't care how you feel. Do it anyway. The most dangerous people in the world, the ones who cannot be broken, are the ones who have mastered the art of showing up whether they were inspired, exhausted, angry, or indifferent. They've realized that the finish line does care about their feelings. Life does care. The world rewards execution, not emotion. Think about it. Discipline is doing what needs to be done long after the mood you made the decision in has disappeared. It's easy to commit when everything feels good. It's easy when you're hyped, energized, and things are flowing, but that does count. Everybody can work when it's easy. The question is, what do you do when it's not? When you are drained, when you are stressed, when the voice in your head screams for comfort, for rest, for escape. That is where winners are made, right there. In that moment when your emotions beg you to quit and you choose discipline instead, you have to understand something. Your feelings are liars. They will deceive you. They will convince you that discomfort is danger, that fatigue is failure, that boredom is a reason to stop, but none of it is true. Those are just signals of growth, signs that you are doing something meaningful, something that stretches you. But only discipline has the power to push through those lies. When you make discipline the standard, not a choice, not a mood-dependent event, but the standard, everything changes. You stop negotiating with weakness. You stop listening to the excuses your mind feeds you. You wake up, you execute, you deliver, over and over, no matter how you feel. This is how the unstoppable are made. Their power does come from being emotionless. It comes from refusing to let emotions dictate action. motivation, discipline over feelings every single time. That is the rule, and that is how you win. Build identity-based habits here, as the truth that most people never understand. You don't rise to the level of your goals. You fall to the level of your systems. You can set all the goals you want, write them on vision boards, repeat affirmations, daydream about success, but none of that matters if the systems you operate on aren't built to support them. The harsh reality is simple. You don't get what you want. You get what you are. Your identity is the thermostat of your life. You will never outperform it. Most people try to change their life through force. They attack their goals with bursts of motivation, pushing hard for a few weeks, maybe even months. But sooner or later, the force burns out. The motivation fades. Life happens. And they slip back, not because they were weak, not because they were incapable, but because they were trying to operate as someone they aren't yet. Their habits did match their goals because their identity did match the person who achieves those goals. This is where the shift happens, the shift from doing to becoming. You can just do the things successful people do. You have to become the kind of person who does those things automatically. You can just run occasionally. You must be a runner. You can't just start a business for a season. You must be an entrepreneur. You can just work out when you feel inspired. You must be someone who never skips, because when it becomes who you are, consistency isn't hard. It is automatic. Think about the difference between someone who's trying to quit smoking versus someone who says, I am not a smoker. The first is constantly battling temptation. The second, the battle does exist because it's no longer part of their identity. When you build identity-based habits, the fight disappears. The decision isn't made every day. It was made once when you decided who you are. The secret to consistency isn't enforcing yourself to act it as in becoming someone for whom that action is normal, automatic, expected. You start asking a different question. Instead of, what do I need to do to achieve this? You start asking, who do I need to become for this to be inevitable? And once you answer that, the work shifts from chasing goals to reinforcing identity. Every action you take is a vote for the person you are becoming. When you train, even when you don't feel like it, you cast a vote for being disciplined. When you stick to your craft daily, you cast a vote for mastery. When you honor your commitments even in silence, you become someone who finishes what they start. Over time, these votes compound, and the identity becomes real, unshakable, unquestioned. This is why the successful aren't obsessed with motivation. They're obsessed with alignment, their habits, their routines, their standards. They are all expressions of who they are, not just what they want. When you master this shift, when you stop asking how to stay consistent and start asking how to become consistent, everything changes, because it's no longer something you do. It's simply who you are. Make the decision one success does. Come from waking up every day and deciding whether or not you are going to show up. It doesn't come from asking yourself each morning if today is the day you will be disciplined, focused, or committed. The people who win at the highest levels don't wake up negotiating with themselves. They made the decision once, not every day, not every week, once. And from that moment forward, they stopped entertaining the debate. Most people don't fail because they lack potential. They fail because they live in a constant state of negotiation. They are always weighing whether they feel like it, whether it is convenient, whether it is comfortable, and that constant indecision is where all the energy gets drained. They exhaust themselves trying to convince their weaker self to act, rather than eliminating the conversation entirely. They don't realize that the decision to commit isn't something that gets revisited. It's something that gets locked in, written in stone, and carried with them until the mission is complete. The truth is, as long as the door to negotiation remains open, weakness will always walk through it. If every day starts with the question, am I going to do this today? You've already lost half the battle, because that question invites excuses. It invites feelings. It invites all the chaos that the mind conjures when it's trying to avoid discomfort. Discipline becomes exhausting when it is framed as a daily debate. But when it is framed as a non-negotiable standard, it becomes automatic. This is the mindset of the relentless. They made the decision once to be the kind of person who shows up no matter what, to be the kind of person who trains, who works, who grinds, regardless of mood, weather, circumstances, or obstacles. The decision was made, and from that point forward, it's no longer a conversation. It is just execution. You don't see lions wake up and question whether they are going to hunt today. They don't check in with themselves about whether they feel like being a lion. They simply are. That is the power of a decision made once. It becomes identity, becomes reality. And when you step into that space where commitment is no longer up for debate, you become a different kind of dangerous. You operate in a world where most people are still stuck negotiating with themselves while you moving, building, creating, conquering. The average person thinks that commitment is something you renew when it is convenient. The extraordinary understand that commitment is something you decide once and prove every day, not with words, not with feelings, but with action. And the moment you remove the daily option to quit, everything changes. You stop burning energy deciding. You stop wasting time explaining to yourself why you don't feel like it. The work becomes the default. The mission becomes the standard. And success, it stops being a question of if, it becomes a matter of when. So make the decision once. Lock it in. Stop negotiating with weakness, because until you do, you will always be one excuse away from failure. But once you do, nothing can break you. The power of non-negotiables there is a line that separates the elite from the average, the disciplined from the inconsistent, the relentless from the comfortable. That line is built from something simple but brutally effective non-negotiables. The strongest, most successful, most disciplined people you will ever meet don't rely on motivation. They don't rely on feelings. They don't wake up wondering whether or not they'll show up today. They have a set of standards, non-negotiable actions that are executed every single day, no matter what, not maybe, not when it is convenient, not when they feel inspired, every day. Non-negotiables are sacred. They are the commitments you make to yourself that are untouchable, unbreakable, and non-negotiable under every circumstance. These are the daily actions that define who you are, not just what you want. Because it's easy to claim you want discipline. It's easy to talk about success. But unless there are actions locked into your day that happen no matter what, whether you are tired, sick, busy, stressed, overwhelmed, or distracted, you are still leaving your life up to chance. The truth is, the average person operates on preference. If they feel like it, they do it. If it is convenient, they show up. But the elite, they operate on principle. Their non-negotiables are not suggestions. They're not goals. They're requirements. Whether the world on fire or the skies are clear, whether the mood is good or bad, whether anyone's watching or not, it doesn't matter. The standard holds. The work gets done. This is the silent contract you sign with yourself when you decide to become relentless. You decide that certain things, training, journaling, building, learning, executing, are no longer optional. They become as necessary as breathing. They are not just tasks on a checklist. They are the price you pay daily to step into the identity of someone who is disciplined, focused, and unstoppable. And the real power of non-negotiables is just in the results they eventually produce. It's in what they do to your mind. Every day that you honor your standard, every day you show up when it is hard, every day you execute without compromise, you prove something to yourself. You reinforce the identity of someone who is reliable, someone who does what they say, someone who can be counted on even by themselves. And over time, that identity compounds into a level of confidence, resilience, and mental toughness that is unbreakable. Most people never experience this power because they live their life making exceptions. They negotiate with weakness. They convince themselves that skipping one day won't matter, that taking it easy just this once is justified. But what they don't realize is that every time they break their own standard, they chip away at their confidence. They weaken the contract with themselves. And that is how inconsistency becomes a habit. The elite don't play that game. Their non-negotiables are law. They understand that discipline isn't something you turn on and off. It's a way of life, a permanent standard, a code. And once you adopt that mindset, once you create non-negotiable daily actions, you separate yourself from the masses permanently. Because while the average drown in excuses, you rise in execution. Master the boring there, an unspoken truth about greatness that almost no one Everyone wants to hear success is boring. It's not the flashy wins, the viral moments, or the big breakthroughs. Success is repetition. It's doing the same thing over and over and over until the results finally compound. The real difference between the average and the elite is simple. Winners master the boring. They become addicted to the process. They fall in love with the monotony. And because of that, they become unstoppable. Most people never get far enough to win because they were addicted to novelty. They crave excitement. They want everything to feel fresh, stimulating, and entertaining. The second things get repetitive, the second the grind feels mundane, they start looking for something new. They convince themselves they need a different plan, a different strategy, a different goal, when the truth is they were already on the right path. They just could handle the boredom of mastery. This is the harsh reality that nobody wants to accept. Progress is built in the mundane, the training session that feels exactly like the last 100, the late nights of studying, building, refining when no one is clapping, when no one notices, the daily disciplines that become so routine, so repetitive, that to the average person it looks like drudgery, but to the relentless, to those who understand the truth about winning, it is sacred. It is the path. It is the edge. Falling in love with repetition is what creates momentum. It is what separates the talkers from the doers, because when you show up long enough, consistently enough, with enough commitment, something incredible happens. What was once hard becomes easy. What once felt like a grind becomes second nature. Your skills sharpen, your mind hardens, your results accelerate, not because you did something flashy, but because you refuse to break under the weight of repetition. People look at champions and think they're a superhuman. They think they're something mystical about their discipline, their focus, their ability to stay locked in. But there's no secret. They just got so comfortable with boredom that the boredom became irrelevant. They stopped needing things to be exciting. They stopped chasing motivation. They realized the dopamine does come from the activity itself. It comes from the growth that the activity creates over time. The masses will always chase the next thing, the next quick fix, the next hack, the next shortcut. But those who win the real winners, they embrace the boring. They understand that success is some explosion of effort followed by rest. It's a slow, steady, relentless march forward, day in, day out. No breaks, no skipping, no emotional negotiation. When you master the boring, you become dangerous. Because now, the very thing that causes others to quit, the monotony, the grind, the lack of excitement, is what fuels you. You become immune to distraction, immune to frustration, immune to inconsistency, and that is the point where momentum becomes inevitable, where success stops being a question of if and becomes a matter of when. Remove choice, reduce resistance. The greatest weapon in the hands of the disciplined is motivation, it is inspiration, and it is even willpower. The ability to eliminate choice, because choice is where resistance lives. Every time you leave room to decide, you give weakness an opening. You invite hesitation. You allow the voice in your head to start whispering all the reasons why today does to have to be the day. And the more you entertain that conversation, the heavier the resistance becomes. The strongest people, the most consistent, the most relentless, understand that if you want to win, you have to close that door completely. You have to remove choice entirely. Decision fatigue is real. Every day, your brain has a limited amount of energy it can use to make decisions. Waste it on trivial things: what time to wake up, whether to train today, whether to eat clean, whether to work on your craft, and by the time it really matters, your discipline is already eroded. This is why the undisciplined always feel tired, overwhelmed, and inconsistent. They were burning mental energy on things that should have been decided once, not negotiated daily. This is the secret that high performers, athletes, CEOs, warriors, and the relentless all live by. Routine is freedom. When your life is designed around non-negotiable patterns, resistance vanishes. There's no debate, there's no decision, there's no conversation about whether it is happening. It just happens. Because that who you are. And when the action becomes automatic, consistency becomes inevitable. Imagine waking up and never asking yourself if you were hitting the gym today. It's just what happened. Imagine never wondering if you were going to work on your business, your craft, or your mission. The block of time is already there. The system is already in place. There's no room to back out because it was never a question to begin with. The mind falls in line with what is expected of it. When you train it to stop negotiating, it stops resisting. Weakness lives in the space between intention and action. The longer you hesitate, the louder the excuses get. The way to destroy hesitation forever is simple. You build systems so bulletproof, so automatic, that showing up isn't even a choice. It's just the program you run. And when that program runs long enough, it ceases to feel like discipline. It becomes identity. The people who seem superhuman, the ones who are always consistent, always moving, always progressing, they were not stronger than you. They just eliminated the space where weakness exists. They don't trust themselves to make the right decision every day. They don't rely on fleeting motivation or fragile willpower. They rely on structure, on systems, on habits so deeply wired into their life that not showing up would feel foreign, out of character, impossible. When you remove choice, you remove resistance. And when resistance is gone, progress stops being a fight. It becomes automatic, effortless, relentless. This is how the unstoppable are built, not by being stronger than everyone else, but by making the decision once and never having to make it again. Ruthless simplicity. Most people stay stuck, not because they lack ambition or drive, but because they drown in complexity. They overwhelm themselves with endless tasks, unnecessary steps, and overcomplicated strategies that suffocate progress before it even begins. Success becomes this tangled web of confusion filled with endless checklists, conflicting advice, and a constant search for the perfect system. And in that chaos, consistency dies. Complexity does just slow you down. It completely destroys your ability to show up day after day. The highest performers in the world understand this at a level the average person never will. They know that the more complicated the process becomes, the less likely they are to stick with it. They don't try to do everything. They don't waste energy designing routines with 1,000 moving parts. Instead, they simplify ruthlessly. They remove everything that isn't critical until what is left is pure, streamlined execution. No fluff. No unnecessary steps, just the bare essentials that drive results. Most failures in discipline aren't because someone want it badly enough. It happens because the process was so cluttered that showing up became exhausting. The brain resists overwhelm. Every unnecessary choice becomes another weight. Every extra task becomes another reason to hesitate, delay, or quit. Complexity feeds resistance, and when resistance builds, discipline collapses. Simplicity becomes the armor that protects consistency. When the routine is stripped down to the core, action becomes automatic. There's no debate, no negotiation, no wasted mental energy trying to figure out what to do. The work simply happens because the structure is so clean, so simple, so efficient that failure feels unnatural. Look at the most relentless people, the ones who always seem to show up no matter what. Their process is boring to anyone on the outside. It is not flashy. It is not complicated. It's brutally consistent. They focus on the same key habits, the same simple routines day after day, while others get distracted chasing the next hack, the next optimization, the next shortcut. The disciplines stay locked into a process that is so simple it is impossible to break. Overthinking kills progress faster than failure ever could. Most people spend more time planning, tweaking, and second-guessing than they ever do executing. But execution is the only thing that ever mattered. The scoreboard of life does not care how sophisticated your plan is. It only reflects what you actually do. And what you do consistently is what defines you. Simplifying is about doing less work. It about focusing your energy with such intensity and precision that nothing slows you down. Strip the process down to what moves you forward. Discard the distractions disguised as productivity. Cut anything that does directly push you toward the goal. Simplify so aggressively that success stops being a mystery and becomes the inevitable result of a repeatable, reliable system. Once simplicity takes over, discipline becomes second nature. The mind no longer wastes energy deciding whether to act. The routine takes over. The habit runs the show. And when that happens, momentum becomes a force that no longer needs to be pushed. It pulls you forward. Simplicity makes quitting difficult and showing up automatic. This is how the unstoppable are built. Not by doing more, not by overcomplicating, but by mastering ruthless simplicity until consistency is